Day 15. They don't make chimneys like they used to. The rain in Spain falls mostly on the plain. There's a bit of light rain this morning, which is actually quite refreshing. So I've gone into rain mode, got the hat on, jacket, and yeah, chipping along quite a beautiful road you can see in the background in between the trees. Would make a pretty nice driveway. Just walked through Castro Jerez. Really beautiful town. Has that amazing castle on the hill and the church on the approach. I passed by a cafe which turned out to be the only cafe that I went past. So it looks like another 10 kilometers before I can have breakfast. Seeking perfection versus perfectionism. One of them, on the face of it, is a very good thing. The other one can be quite crippling. It's a good and worthy thing to, you know, seek perfection in your work and to make the best of your talents. But if you get caught up in perfectionism, very often you won't do anything because it's too difficult a task to achieve. It's humanly impossible. So why even attempt it? Somehow we need a bit of grace to even come close to perfection. And the people that can do it are held in really high esteem, be that sports people, you know, authors, filmmakers, even business people, and engineers even. But it's very, very difficult to achieve, and if you needed to be perfect right away, you probably wouldn't even start. I like the idea that it's kind of a work of years and, you know, the 10,000 hours to become an expert type way of thinking, as opposed to it needs to be, you know, you've got some God-given talent and you just nail it right from the get-go. I'm on a steep climb at the moment, as you can see, and I was just chatting with another pilgrim, Alexis, a guy from France. He's an interesting guy. We were chatting a bit last night in the hostel, but I was saying that, like, I really like the climbs because of cycling. Like, I do a bit of cycling, and when you're cycling you kind of get into this, I don't know, you start to enjoy the burn of the climb. It's sort of more enjoyable somehow. And Alexis made the point that somehow we can relax more when we're climbing, because you know, our body's geared up and ready to go. We can see the hill in front of us, we can feel the adrenaline, and we crack on into it. I think the same can be. We were saying that a lot of the things we encounter on the Camino have close parallels in life, and actually there's a biblical passage too about the yoke. I don't remember it exactly, but it was, you know, I guess implying that you know, a mule with a yoke around its neck sort of is what we should be like in a way, sort of getting on with it, because in a way we're built to exert ourselves. And as Alexis said, when we're just cruising along on the flat, or we're going downhill, somehow our muscles aren't as kind of relaxed and they're more in tension, and we're worried about a slip. When we're going uphill, we've got our heads down and we're pushing on. The Bible passage talks about three men, one who's given 5 talents, or gifts we could call them. Let's say talents. One that's given, I think, 3, and the other one's given 1. The one with 5 goes out, makes use of his talents. He comes back to the master, and he has another 5. He's managed to wheel and deal and improve himself and do good stuff, and earn 5 on top of the 5 he originally had. The guy who started with 2 came back with 4, so again he doubled what he was given. The guy with only 1 was afraid, and he buried his talent in the ground, or didn't use it in effect, and at the end he came back and he still had the 1. So the master was actually, as you can imagine, happiest with the guy who brought back the most, and angry with the guy who hadn't done anything with his talent. I think it's a good thing to keep in mind that you know, talents are a gift. We didn't really do anything to earn them or deserve them, and we should go out and share them, and share them with the world, and develop them in doing so, and by doing that you'll end up having more. The analogy with life is obviously there are times when we're slacking off and just cruising along, and it doesn't really do us all that good. You know, each one of us has had times when we've really had to apply ourselves and work hard, and it's not all that pleasant initially. You know, I remember being at school and hating it, avoiding it like the plague, and thinking I don't want to learn anything else for the rest of my life. But I guess as life goes on, you sort of realise that, yeah, those difficult moments, those steep climbs, those difficult projects, maybe even difficult relationships, you know, they cause us to be outside our comfort zone. You know, ideally not too far outside of our comfort zone where we sort of damage ourselves, but far enough outside our comfort zones where we're where we're growing, and in the analogy with climbing a hill, we're getting more fit by exerting ourselves outside of our comfort zone. And yeah, we feel a deep sense of satisfaction, I guess, in the way we're built. After we exert ourselves, we get to the top of that hill, we can like chill for a little bit, take a deep breath, and yeah, very satisfying feeling. Then by nature, I think we go looking for the next hill. Walking downhill is hard on the knees. I'm not sure what the analogy with life is there. It's pretty damn slippery right now, and this reminds me a bit of rally driving. Like, you can, when you're driving in a rally and maybe you're not like up the front on the road, you kind of start encountering ruts. And one of the things, like, I used to drive this little front-wheel drive car, and one of the things I used to find like really good was, but also a huge leap of faith, was to just stick the front wheels in the ruts and hold it nailed, as it were, or stay flat on the throttle. So effectively a bit like a toboggan run. Now the problem was, occasionally you'd pop out of the ruts, and then you would have an absolute heart-stopping moment. Yeah, so I mean, walking along that bit just before, there was a bank to the road, so my feet naturally wanted to head into the rut. I was staying out of the rut because trying to keep my shoes dryish, but perhaps some more humility would have been a better approach and just walk along in the rut, rally style. That brings up an interesting point, and possibly the worst segue ever. But the topic of humility is another interesting one. I was chatting to my sister-in-law on WhatsApp, and like, one of the things that she mentioned was like perfectionism and aiming for perfection, and like the self-paralysis topics that kind of spoke about a bit. They're very normal, and one of the thoughts I had was like humility. She said that if you're watching somebody who's a really good musician, you feel much more nervous to play, and that is true, and that's pretty normal and natural. But there is another approach, and that is like the approach of humility, because inherently the idea of playing in front of somebody who's better than you is humbling, and also like hard on your ego. But that's the beauty of humility, because like, I think a lot of us, and myself included at times, have seen humility as a kind of self-flagellation, or that means whipping yourself, for the younger audiences, yeah, like seen as kind of bad to be humble. you know, you look at sports stars and stuff and they're always got massive egos and they're not humble. But like my experience has been that a lot of people who are you know, that I've come across, who are like really have achieved a huge amount, were like very, very humble in a way, like in the sense that they didn't think that their gift was like, you know, all of their own doing and kind of like, you know, all down to their own hard work. They recognised that some of that talent came from somewhere else, but it was something that they really applied themselves to and developed. And one guy in particular I'm thinking of, really successful racing driver, he you know, openly said that there were guys who were more talented than him, but they didn't go as far because they didn't apply themselves. So there's kind of a humility there in recognizing that that yeah, I'm not the best you know, hairdresser and but that doesn't mean to say that I shouldn't cut my brother's hair. Or I'm not the best driver, but that doesn't mean to say that I shouldn't practice and get better and be willing to kind of be embarrassed in front of somebody who's better than me. Also, like remembering that like it's kind of an exponential kind of curve with a lot of this stuff. Like to get better at something early is pretty easy, but after some time, you know, as in the better you get, the harder it gets to get better, if you know what I mean. So if you're a beginner, it's easy to become intermediate, it's harder to become good, it's extremely difficult to become pro. So there's and then like that's where humility is a great thing too, where you can really appreciate other people more, other people's talents. I'm pretty crap kite surfer. I've stood up like 2-3 times, and but when I look at like kite surfing videos of guys who are good, and I used to work with a guy who was very good, you know, I'd be like, wow, that's awesome, you know. Like I didn't, and I don't think I would have had too much hesitation in being crap in front of him. It's kind of an external focus, in a way. Instead of focusing on me, like I'm not that great at kite surfing, I'm kind of focusing externally and going, wow, that is great, and somehow I can get better, and maybe not get better to kind of like define myself somehow, but get better even for others. In that example, the guy much better than me showing me how to get better at kite surfing would, you know, feel good for helping me get better. Ultimately, it comes down to defining ourselves by what we do and being good at it, as opposed to who we are. And Christianity would teach us that we're worthy of love, whether we're good at kite surfing or not.